friends, welcome back to the Photoshop Basics for Scrapbooking class. In today's lesson and next week's lesson, I am going to cover a technique that I get asked questions about all the time. And this is the technique that I have been most excited to share with you in regards to working with journaling cards in a digital format. And that is printing journaling on physical journaling cards using the digital version, or not even having the digital version, but still being able to print on top of your journaling cards. This week, we're going to be talking about how to do this using the digital version of your journaling cards. So this will work when you have both the physical and the digital cards in your stash at your disposal. Next week, we're going to talk about how you can still manage to do this even when you don't have the digital version of the card. So if that is a problem or a hurdle that you're trying to overcome, then stay tuned because next week I will take you through that process. Today, we're going to be working on doing this when we have both of the digital and the physical cards available to us. I'm going to show you this both in Photoshop Creative Cloud and inside of Photoshop Elements. This is a great way to get lots of journaling onto those little cards because it's so much easier to add small print text than it is to actually handwrite small print text on those cards. So let's head over to the computer and I'm going to show you how you can accomplish this in both Creative Cloud and Elements. All right, friends, welcome over here to my computer screen. As we go through today's lesson, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of back and forth between working on the computer and then working with the physical product at my table. So I can show you from start to finish how this process works. So first and foremost, I have 3 different journaling cards pulled up and I chose these ones specifically so that I could show you how these print in different orientations or when there are more than one spot to add journaling. So I have the card here that says For the Love of June that has a fairly large area to the right side of it. If I were using this for a journaling card, I would grab my text tool from the toolbar there, drag a square into the shape, kind of keeping it as evenly distributed as possible, and then I will go ahead and let the text populate in, type out my own journaling into here, and then this card would be ready to go. So just as a pretend here, we can go like this, okay? So I've still got my background separate from my journaling, and that is something that's going to be very important. All right, next let's move to the second card here. This one has a little bit more defined of a space where you could add a photo or journaling. In this case, we're going to add the journaling the same way, click and drag a square or a rectangle into the space, let the text populate in, and then type in your own story. The third one here is the June Gratitudes card. These are all from the Stories by the Month collection from Allie Edwards in the June set from 2022. For this one, you can see that there are 5 different numbers on here to designate 5 different spaces for journaling. For a card like this one, I'm going to add a space for journaling for each of those 5 different spots. You can either build in all of your text boxes individually, or you can also copy and paste to add additional boxes if you need to. So for now, let me just go ahead and get all 4 of these placed. Or 5, actually, sorry, all 5 of these placed. And that'll do it. So we've got all 5 spaces here. I might actually remove the bottom line just so that there's a little bit more definition in between the 5 blocks of text, like so. And then this would be my card. Again, these 5 pieces or these 5 sections of text are separate layers from the background. So now that we have our text on here, next what we need to do is actually remove the background. Because if we printed our card like this, the design of the card would print out as well. If you're working with only digital materials, that's a great way to go ahead and add your text and print out your journaling card. But we're actually going to take this text and print it onto the physical version of this card. So what I need to do is go into my layers panel, and we're going to unlock the background layer. That lets us alter it if we want to, or get rid of it entirely, which that is what I'm actually going to do. So let's go ahead and delete out the background. So now we have a block of text, and then we have this space behind it, this transparent space that still takes up the 6x4 journaling card, but there's nothing there. So what I want to do is, now that I only have my text layer selected, I want to go up to Layer menu here, down to New at the top, and we're going to select Background from Layer. What that means is it's going to turn the layer that I had selected into the background. When that happens, it's going to fill in any of the quote-unquote transparent space with whatever background color you have currently in your color swatches. For me, that's white, which is exactly what I would want. So now we have a 6x4 card with a white background and the text. The only caveat to this is, now that I have done this, I actually cannot alter the text anymore because it has flattened it down into this background image. If you wanted to keep those separate, instead of what I just did, what you could do instead is go up to Layer and New, and first create a new layer, leaving everything the same. So now we've got the text layer and this layer 1 layer. Once you have the new layer here, we can go back up again to the layer menu, down to New, and background from layer, and it's now going to change this into the background, leaving the text as a separate entity that you can still go in here and alter it if you want. So that's just another way of doing the same thing. It just is one extra step, really. So let's do the same thing to these 3x4s. We're going to come to the card, unlock the card, the original card itself, and delete it. Then I'm going to go up to Layer. We'll do this the long way. New and New Layer. Okay. And then Layer, New, and Background from Layer. So now we've got the two separate entities here, the background and the text. And then one more time. So we'll go unlock the background, or the original card, delete it. We still have those 5 sections of text. We're going to go up to Layer, New, give us a new layer here, and then we're going to make it into the background by going Layer, New, and Background from Layer. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the background and the 5 pieces of text. Okay, so from here, what I want to do is I want to add the card, the background plus the text, onto a new canvas sized at 8.5 by 11 inches. So that is going to be my standard size for my printer paper. So let's go New. I need 8.5 by 11. Yes. Okay. So let's start with the 6x4. And actually, before I do this, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my real journaling for these 3 cards. These are going to go into a spread for Project Life. So let me pull up my real journaling, get us to this point again, and then we'll continue with adding it onto this 8.5 by 11 page. Okay, sorry about that. So we are back now. You can see that I've got my actual real journaling on this card. So now we can go ahead and get this printed. So the first thing I need to do is I need to flatten this entire image so the whole thing is only one layer. So I can go down to my layers panel and select both of them by holding onto the control button or the shift button and clicking both. Right click, and then where are you at? I think you need to right click on the background, and then it would say merge layers or merge visible or flatten image. They're all going to do the exact same thing. So we can do it that way. And now this is one layer in and of itself. Let's go to this next one. And what you can do for this, if you don't want to merge it this way with the clicking right, you can also go up to the layer menu and down to merge layers, and that will work as well. And for this third one, we'll do this one other way, which is going to be selecting all of the layers. Actually, I don't even think you have to select all the layers. Let's try this. So without selecting all the layers, we're going to use the hotkeys, Control or Command, Shift, and the letter E, and that is going to merge all of the layers that are currently visible into one layer, which was everything because I had everything visible. So we have the 3 cards that are now ready to be printed. They are all, each of them, only one layer, which is what we need in order to get them printed. Next, what I'm going to do is, starting with the 6x4 card, I'm going to Control A, select all. So you can also go to select and all, but select all, Control all. Copy it, Control C, and paste it onto my 8.5 by 11, Control V. What happens when I do this is the pasted image goes into the exact middle of my canvas. And this is important because it means that once we get this 6x4 printed, any other 6x4 that I ever print, as long as I put it in the exact same spot, it's going to print out with the journaling where it's meant to go. This will make a little bit more sense here in just a minute. I'm actually going to go ahead and open up an additional 8.5 by 11 so we can do the let's do the celebrating card here. So Control A for selecting all, Control C for copying, going to the new canvas, and Control V for paste. Again, this is going to put that 3x4 card in the exact middle of my canvas. Okay, and let's for now just close out of the June Gratitudes, and I will print that one later using Photoshop Elements so you can see that it works the same way over there. Okay, so with that done, I can close out of my cards here. I don't need those anymore. I have these 2 cards that are now ready to print. But the question is, how do we know where to print them? For this, you can do a couple of different things. If you want to just use the card that you already have here to create your, what do I want to say, like your, almost like your stencil of where things are going to go, you can use what you've got here, or you can create an entirely new one, which let's just do that for the sake of ease. So if I create a new canvas that's sized 8.5 by 11, right? I also want to create a new canvas that's sized at 6x4. So I have a 6x4 and an 8.5 by 11. I'm going to take the 6x4, select it all and copy it, and then paste it into the middle of my 8.5 by 11. Now you can't see this because they're both white, right? If I remove the background, then you can see it there in the middle. With layer 1 selected, I want to go over to Edit and Stroke. From here, I have my width set at 1 pixel and my color is black. So what I want to do from here is hit the OK button, and it is going to draw a very thin line around the outside edge of my 6x4. So if I were to print this, and actually, I will here in a minute. If I print this, then this gives me my template of exactly where to place my physical 6x4 card in order to get my text printed in the correct placement. So if I were to go back to, let's say, the 6x4 with all the journaling, I'm grabbing just this piece right here. I'm going back to my 8.5 by 11 where I've got the outline. If I paste this card on here, the line is going to disappear because, let's hide this really quick, because the outline is directly behind it. It pasted it into the exact middle, the same exact spot where the outlined 6x4 is. Okay, so as long as I leave my journaling in the center and I hit the print button, then it will print out on my journaling card and there will not be this outline around the outside edge. So let's get rid of that. We're going to leave the template here. Let's create another template that we're going to use for the 3x4. So here is my 8.5 by 11. Next, I'm going to create a 3x4. We're going to select all of it and copy it, paste it onto my 8.5 by 11. You can see there's that new layer there, and then go up to Edit, down to Stroke, 1 pixel, color black, hit OK, and there is my 3x4 template or outline. So these two pieces I want to go ahead and print first. These I'm going to print on plain white copy paper. I have a copy paper that is slightly silkier. It's intended for printing off colored paper using colored inks inside of just a regular inkjet printer. So it's got a little bit of a silkier feel to it, which is awesome because it allows me to reuse the exact same piece of paper over and over and over again. It's a little bit stronger and doesn't rip when I pull the elements off of the page. And you'll see that here in a minute as well. So what I'm going to do is print off these 2 pages. So I've got these 6x4. I'm going to make sure that this is using just plain paper, borderless printing, 8.5 by 11. We're making sure that there's no amount of extension. We've talked about this before. Hit OK, and then we're going to print it. So we'll do this one, and for now that's okay. And we're going to also print off the 3x4. And I need to go put some paper in my printer so it actually prints it off. So we've got these 2 pages are being printed. Once we have those printed, I'm going to actually meet you over at my crafting table, and I'm going to show you how to add the physical version of the card onto the paper, and then we will go ahead and print off the journaling for this For the Love of June card and for the framed celebrating card. We'll do both of those using Photoshop Creative Cloud. So let me go grab these 2 templates off of my printer, and then I'll meet you over at the desk. All right, so now I've got the 2 templates created, so you can see the 3x4 and the 4x6. I've also gone ahead and pulled out both of those physical cards. So what I need to do now is actually adhere them into those spots. I'm going to do this with my dot liner because it is a little bit easier to remove and re-adhere things down. I'm going to add my adhesive onto my paper, not onto my card. And that's because it will adhere stronger onto the paper, since that's what I am pressing it down onto, than it will if I were to add it onto the card itself. Next, I just need to position the card inside of those lines. It will go slightly on the inside of the black lines, and that's totally fine. And I'm going to do the same for the 6x4, just like that, pressing down onto the adhesive. And now what I need to do is go and put this back into my printer so it can add the text on there. One thing I will mention is that when you are placing this back into your printer, you just want to be very mindful about which side is going to print, the top and the bottom. So for my printer, I will put it in with the top pointing down so that when it comes out, my text is printed in the correct orientation. But that is going to depend on whatever printer you are using. So just make sure you keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and load both of these back into my printer. We'll head back over to the computer and print off the journaling into these actual physical cards. All right, so with my journaling cards now adhered onto the paper, we are going to go ahead and close out of these. We don't need these anymore. Those were just to be used as templates. So now what I need to do is take the 8.5 by 11 that I created, that I pasted my actual journaling, the card, on top of it, right? So this is in that exact same spot where my card is currently adhered onto the 8.5 by 11. Same for the 3x4. If I remove the background, you'll see that the 3x4 is directly in the center, right where I had adhered my physical card onto my 8.5 by 11 paper. So starting with the 6x4, all I'm going to do is hit the print button. I'm going to keep all of my settings the same. So I'm printing on regular paper. I am printing without borders. There is no expansion. So everything stays the same, and I'm going to hit the print button. Then we're going to do the same thing for the 3x4. I'm going to have a setting pop up here that's just going to ask me if I'm sure, basically. Yes, I'm sure that I want to print that. Okay, so then we'll do the same thing for the 3x4. We'll hit print, and these will shoot out of my printer. I'll meet you back over at the desk to show you the final results. All right, so here are both of those cards. So we've got the 4x6 where you can see the journaling has been printed into the same area where I wanted it to go. And then I've also got the celebrating frame with my journaling inside now as well. The only other thing I do from here is I just carefully remove the card off of the paper. And this is where you can see that this particular printer paper, it's just kind of a silkier paper. It doesn't rip as easily when I pull off the journaling cards. A lot of the adhesive stays stuck to the paper, so I can use this again and again and again until that adhesive becomes too not sticky, unsticky. So then for the back of the journaling card, I'm just going to use my finger to rub off any additional adhesive that's on there because I don't need that on there anymore. And now this card is good to go. So let's do the same thing for the 4x6. I'm just going to carefully remove it from the paper. And then I need to rub off any additional adhesive that's left behind on the card. And this one is now also ready to go. All right, so I have one more card with journaling that I would like to get printed off. This time we're gonna go inside of Photoshop Elements so I can show you virtually the same process just on that program. So I'll meet you back over at the computer. All right, friends, we're back over here, and now I have Photoshop Elements pulled up so I can show you this process here as well. Before I get into the journaling cards and doing all the alterations and everything I need to do there, let's first go ahead and create the templates, those same templates where we can paste on the journaling cards in order to print them through the printer. So I'm going to start by creating a new blank file. For this one, I am going to make it, let's make it a 3. Let's do a 3x4 at 300 pixels per inch. Okay, then let's do another one. This time, we'll make it a 6x4, 300 pixels per inch. Oh, and this is grayscale. I don't want it to be grayscale. We'll make this RGB color. Okay, this one is grayscale. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Start that one over again. So inches, we've got 3x4, 300 pixels per inch RGB. Okay, and then I need I need 2 more. Let's do 2 more of the exact same. So 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall, 300 pixels per inch, and RGB color. Good. And then I need 1 more of those. So we need 8.5 inches by 11 inches, 300 pixels per inch, and RGB color. Okay, so now I have 2 8.5 by 11s, a 3x4, and a 4x6. Let's start with the 4x6. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure my layer is selected. I'm going to select it all and copy it. We're going to go back over to a 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to paste it on there. So now you can kind of see the outline of the layer that is pasted directly into the middle of our canvas. With that layer still selected, we're going to go up to Edit, and then we're going to go down to Stroke or Outline Selection. From here, we want our width to be 1 pixel, the color to be black, and we're going to hit OK. With that done, I can now deselect or let go of this one. And when we zoom in here, there is our outline ready to go on the page. Let's do the same thing for the 3x4. So I'm going to select all of it, copy it with Control C, paste it onto our 8.5 by 11 using Control V. With the layer selected, I want to go up to Edit, down to Stroke, 1 pixel, perfect, OK. When you originally do this, it's not going to show the whole thing because you're zoomed out really far. So as soon as you zoom in just a little bit, you'll be able to see the outline more clearly. So then you can go ahead and print these onto some plain copy paper. This also allows you not to waste your ink by first printing the journaling and the card and then putting your physical card on top of that and then printing it again. Having these templates makes it a little bit easier and definitely helps save on the ink. Okay, so let's close out of those two the two templates. I'm also going to close out of the 6x4 because all we're going to print on this one is just going to be the last 3x4 card. So for that, I want to go ahead and open the card. This is the one I have left to print. Similar as last time, we're going to go ahead and take our text tool and we're just going to, let me change a little bit of this. I first of all want this to be Remington. I want the font to be like 9, and the rest of this looks pretty good. Okay. So now I can draw my text boxes and we're going to just add some gibberish. We'll say journaling, journaling, journaling. And then we could just paste that a million times. Okay, there we go. So we've got journaling, journaling, journaling. 3 lines of journaling. Okay. Now, one of the things about elements is it's not as easy to just copy and paste the different elements. So if I have this selected and let's see if this works, hit copy and paste, it doesn't do anything. So instead, we're going to go over to the layer itself and we're going to duplicate the layer, and we'll just do that. I need, what, 5 of them? So let's make 5 exactly the same text boxes. There we go. So there's 5 of them. So then I can just take them and drag them into place where I want them to go. Okay, just like so. And we're just going to pretend that I had my journaling, that my journaling is done, right? And ready to print. And from here, I'm going to close this and we're going to open the one where I actually do, in fact, have my journaling done. Here we are. So for this one, what I need to do is I need to go to my background layer. We're going to unlock it because it was locked. So we're going to unlock it and delete layer 0. Yes. So now we have nothing behind all of the text. Next, we can go up to Layer, New, and New Layer, hit OK. And then we'll put this down at the bottom because this is going to become our background layer. Next, we'll go back up to the Layer menu, down to New, and this time, with our new layer selected, we're going to say Background from Layer, and that will give us the white background there. Now, because I did it that way, I should be able to come in here and let's see here. I might need to alter some of this because I did my journaling in, which one is missing? This one, right? No, this one? Yes. There we go. I did my journaling in Creative Cloud, so it didn't like it when I pulled it open in here. But now we're all good. So we've got the journaling is all ready to go. We've got the background is ready to go. So because I don't need to make any more changes to my journaling here, what I can do is merge all of these layers together. I'm going to hold down Control or Command, Shift, and the letter E to do so. You can also go up to Layer and Merge Visible in the menu there. Actually, I'll just go ahead and click that. And that's going to bring everything down into that one single layer, which is important, right? Because when we copy and paste everything over, it makes it much, much simpler. So now I have my background layer selected. I'm going to select it all, copy it, paste our June card, and that's going to go directly into the middle of our page here. So I can zoom in and see there is my card. So just like last time, I'm going to go over to my already created template. I'm going to paste in the card here and then run this through my printer so we can see how it turns out. Fingers crossed that it works. All right, so we've got the June Gratitudes card is printed, ready to go. I'll bring it up here so you can see how that printed. So nice. And then I can do the same thing, just gently remove it. This is the exact same template I used before. I can totally use it again. So we'll rub off the excess glue or adhesive there. And now I have another journaling card ready to go. So some parts of this process can be a little bit tedious. I am okay with that because a lot of times I prefer to do my journaling on the computer. I feel like I'm able to have thoughts that are a little bit more thought out. And I can check my spelling and all of that good stuff. So most of the time I prefer to type up my journaling, and this is a great way for me to do that, but to still be able to use the physical cards because I really like the weight and the texture and the color, the saturation of the physical cards. For your homework this time around, I would love for you to pick out some cards from your stash. Maybe make them cards that you don't super love, that are ones that you may or may not use in case you run into any issues. Every printer is a little bit different. I am using a Canon Pixma Pro 100, and I know that it pulls through my paper with my journaling cards adhered perfectly, but I know that my printer may not be the same as your printer. So I would implore you to try these techniques using cards that you don't love first. And then once you have the hang of it, then feel free to go crazy and use all the cards that you want, including your favorites. I would encourage you to try doing some cards that have some of the larger spaces like these two, where it's a little bit easier to line everything up. And then challenge yourself to do one that's a little bit more complicated, where you've got different sections that you need to add your text to. If you are an Allie Edwards subscriber for the Stories by the Month kit, there are also the cards that have the blocked colors or the stripes of color on them. And that's a great one to try this type of technique on for printing onto the cards. All right, friends, that is going to be it for me today. Next week, I'm going to be back. It's going to be our last lesson working with journaling cards. Still, we're going to be working on printing on journaling cards like we did today, but I'm going to show you how you can do this even if you do not have the digital version of the card in your stash, in your files. It is still possible to add text to your journaling cards even if you don't have the digitals. So come back next week and I'll show you how it's done. Until then, friends, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next week. Bye now.